This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Alrighty, hello everyone, and welcome to the Fully Managed Podcast, the podcast where we discuss marketing and business tips to help assist you on your business journey. I'm your host, Shannon, Penji's partnership coordinator, and I'm joined here today with a very special guest, Deirdre Tindall from Tindall Creative Marketing. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Shannon. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, kind of how you got to this point in your career, and then anything that you think might be relevant that, the audience might want to know?
Absolutely. So obviously, I have a full service digital marketing agency. We're based in Connecticut, but we're all over the country. And I have been in a variety of positions where it was sales, marketing, PR, business development for probably the span of my career. I've always loved marketing, and I love how marketing and sales and business development need to sort of work together. I started my business 7 years ago after sort of being pushed gently by a really huge mentor of mine who's actually a client now. I know. I worked for him for a long time, sort of created my own position with him in the sales, business development, marketing world and PR. And, he really believed in me and said, you know what, you've got such a huge talent for marketing. And I want you to just he kind of pushed me to kind of finally do what I've always wanted to do, which was start my own business. So I ended up starting my own business 7 years ago. And honestly, it's the best decision I ever did. I never have looked back. I think there's a lot of fear for people starting their own business, especially when you're used to being in a salaried position and you have the safety of a salary and, a check coming in every week and benefits and 401k and all that stuff. And then all that goes away. You need to start your own business. So he really pushed me, started my business 7 years ago. And I really have just loved the ability to have my own business. We're a little bit different of an agency in that because I have a background in sales and business development and starting businesses and understanding that side of the world, I really dovetail that with what I do with marketing. So a lot of times people will come to me looking for marketing help. A lot of people are referred to me just through relationships and connections I've had. And a lot of times I'm sort of putting the pause button on conversations with people about moving forward in marketing until we've looked at what's going on all this other stuff, like their business, their sales cycle, their, having things like a CRM system, a business plan, a marketing plan. And a lot of times they don't have that stuff. And so it's really hard to be really effective for them from a marketing standpoint if they don't have that stuff and that foundational sort of platform. So I put a pause on the marketing, either help them get connected to somebody who can help them with that business stuff, or in some cases, I'm also helping them as well. I really like to stay laser focused on the marketing pieces. But in some cases, I'll do some strategy and consulting with them on the business side so that we get them really set up properly so that when we start doing all that marketing stuff, it's a win-win and we're able to help them effectively. So that's a little bit sort of how our agency is a little bit different than some other agencies, is focusing on that business side as well and that sales side. And we have clients all over the country and clients that are all different shapes and sizes and types and categories. So it's fun, and every day is a very different day for us.
Well, I really like that. And I think that strategy of not just focusing on marketing and realizing that there's all these other factors that go into a successful campaign can really foster a long-term meaningful relationship with a client. So I really enjoy that that's something that you practice, because I think a lot of people are very much looking at one thing because they're focused on that because that's what they do. But I think that when you're considering everything else, that's more likely that's a more likely scenario for them to actually yield results that are consistent.
Mm-hmm.
So in this kind of results driven industry, how do you balance creativity since you are a creative marketing agency with measurable outcomes?
Yeah, so as you know, being in this marketing space, right? It's always difficult as a marketer to when companies hire you to say, okay, I'm paying you, like where's the ROI in this, right? And um obviously there's a lot of analytics that we utilize in a lot of different capacities with what we're doing, right? I mean, whether it's we're running social media, right? We can get analytics on how well we're doing. We obviously set goals for clients to help clients with goals that they want to achieve in their marketing results. So we're able to track a lot of stuff now, and with all the technology that we have at our sort of within our wheelhouse now, we're also able to track. But as well as I do, marketing is such a multifaceted, huge wheel, right, if you will. And, a lot of times we get people saying, I saw you on the billboard, I saw you on the TV commercial, I saw you on the radio station, I saw you all these different places because you asked them the question, like, where did you hear about us, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of times they can't tell you specifically because they've seen them in a variety of ways. And so when they make that phone call to finally make a call to buy something or to discuss something about something they're interested in, a lot of times they can't say exactly where they saw the person or where they heard about it, but they've just seen them everywhere, right? And so that's sort of having a multifaceted approach for clients. And that's my big thing that I work with clients on is like, it's not just putting up a Facebook page or just putting up a beautiful website or just having a beautiful brand is not enough. That's not going to get you business, right? And so that's where that strategy comes into play and looking at all the different things that we could or couldn't be doing based on what your desired results are, based on your goals, and based on the buyer that you're trying to go after. Because I think a lot of times companies that we see, they don't really even know who their ideal buyers are, right? Or buyer personas. So we almost have to kind of go back a lot with clients and say, and help them to understand not every client is a good client. And to really hone in on what is the ideal client that they're looking for. And then from there, we can decide where those people are, and then we can decide where we want to market to them, right? Because if their ideal client is, 65 years old, well, then you don't need a TikTok account.
Yeah.
If your ideal client is, in their 30s or in their 20s, then maybe we need to be thinking about marketing on TikTok. So there's a lot of different things and factors that go into what we're doing for clients and how we track the results. I mean, again, with all the technology that we have at our hands now, it's much easier to do a lot of analytics on things that we're doing for them. And then, the biggest compliment of our work is getting phone calls from clients saying, you know what, ever since we started working with you, the number of calls that are coming in, the number of people that are purchasing from us, right? Then we know we're doing a good job. Because the strategy, the multi-prong approach is working for the clients, those that are willing to listen and those that are willing to invest in it.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand that. It's hard to sometimes pinpoint what specific strategy is working, especially when it's just feedback that you're getting. But as long as there's a clear uptick in the amount of calls or sales that are coming in, then you clearly know that if it's a stark difference from before you were hired, that you're definitely doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that is really working with the client to really develop what the goal is and what they want to accomplish and getting them to really hone in on that and then deciding is the best strategy. Which avenues are we going to use? What kind of campaigns are we going to be, focused on to help them get to that goal? And then obviously having the analytics to be able to back it up.
Have you ever had a campaign that you worked on that kind of changed your perspective on how to do any in the future? Like something that worked really well that you hadn't considered before or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, in all the years that I've been doing marketing, I think, it's really trial and error sometimes because you just don't know until
Yeah.
you do. And that's why I really hone in with clients and I feel like I keep telling them over and over again, like, we need a strategy here. A lot of people are just like buying this and trying this and doing this and working with different people to do different aspects of marketing or different aspects of sales, and all those people aren't talking and it's not cohesive, and then they end up spending a lot more money than they really need to be doing. So that's why I keep honing in on like strategy. And then we can decide for a particular client, this may work. Let's start here. Let's try this and let's track it and see what happens. Let's not do a million different things. Let's track a few things, try a few campaigns, see how effective it is based on the people we're trying to go after. And then if we're not getting results, we're very nimble. Like I'm very nimble and adapting very quickly just to change course based on what we think we need to be doing. Have every single one of my campaigns that we've ever employed for a client worked? No, absolutely not.
Sparkling. You can't even guarantee it.
Oh, correct. And you can't guarantee it because there's so many things that are just they're out of your control. So I think what's important is not being so set in your ways as far as this is the way to do it. This is going to work. Like be willing to be open to the idea that this may not work and then be able to maneuver quickly to adjust and refocus on something different.
Yeah, I think that being able to react in the right way anytime a campaign does fail, quote unquote, because I think that failure is kind of objective, but I think that is the best thing that you can do in a marketing role. It's very tricky. Marketing is a gamble. I think we all like understand that phrase and know it very well, is that you can do everything right and still it might not end up the outcome that you wanted. And that doesn't mean that, you didn't do your job well. It just means that there's so many factors that contribute to, the success of doing that. And it's good to just readjust and, pivot every time that happens. And I think that's like what can still make you successful, and also like communicating with a client, I'm sure.
Constantly communicating. Exactly. I mean, that's the key, right? Is I'm in constant communication with my client at all levels about what's going on, constantly checking in with them. Because you hear that a lot where they've worked with other people in the past who basically take their money and run and like, they're not seeing results. They're not sending them analytics. Like I just got off a call this morning with a very major law firm that I'm working with. I'm doing consulting, and they're supposed to be getting analytics every 30 days, and they're not getting it from this company that they're using for their website. And I just kind of came in consulting, and they haven't gotten analytics in like 2 years. And so the question is, why aren't they sending you analytics? But more importantly, that those are things that companies should be sending them based on their contract, and they're not. So for me,
Sure.
I over communicate to my clients. I'm constantly in contact with them, whether it's phone, text, FaceTime, whatever it is that they need to do. They always have access to me. And I think that right there is a huge difference, because a lot of people were not doing that face-to-face like everything is an email, everything is an attachment. There's this disconnect. And for me, I really want to pick up that phone, talk to them, connect to them, jump on FaceTime, whatever it is we need to do in order to make sure that they feel comfortable with what we're doing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I even, as much as a lot of my job is podcasting, I do think that I value the face-to-face contact a lot, because I don't know, it's just a way to get to know people and learn, and learning is my favorite thing for sure. But I think that it's similar to a client relationship, in the idea that, just because they're hiring you for a purpose doesn't mean you can't learn from them consistently. And because of constant communication, you can continue to learn from each other. And I think that that's something that's really valuable in that space. I think that a lot of people, one, don't have proper communication with their clients, but also they don't understand them well, if that makes sense.
No, totally. And I've even gone so far as I've worked with a couple of different franchises, and I think the franchise owners were shocked when I showed up to actually work on the floor and said, "Hey, I want to see what it's like." Like, I remember going into a Jersey Mike's that I was working with and consulting with, and I showed up and said, "Hey, I want to work a shift for a couple hours, and I just kind of want to see how you're delivering, how are you delivering this to the consumer? How are your staff delivering this? What does this feel like for them?" Right? Because I think if I have that experience, then I can understand them better, and I can also help market them better because I've lived that experience. So I know it's kind of like non-traditional for people to do that, but I do that. And I think, again, that's one thing that sort of sets me apart in terms of people choosing to work with me.
No, I really like that. I do. It almost reminds me of this is maybe a silly comparison, but like celebrities that go to work in a fast food place. It's like they're just like us. Hey, but I'm definitely not a celebrity, but I'm doing you think. It's like it's almost it's just an experience of like understanding, the people that, support you. And I think that that's something that's very down to earth, and I think that when people see that, they understand that they're an extension of your business and not just not just a person that you get a check from.
Absolutely.
And that's and that also, like, it's almost a level of what's the word I'm looking for? Responsibility, maybe, of the fact that you have a more personal connection with them. So you're not only are you probably more inclined, I mean, if you seem like a good person, you're more inclined to do better because you understand like what they're dealing with from on the ground, but also that they probably feel like maybe, oh, you'd probably feel a lot worse if you didn't do your job well because you know them.
Well, again, I think, we have roofing clients, we have electrical clients, and we have the gamut, right? And so, I mean, oftentimes, I know, like, when I go to the job site, if I'm going to my roofing client, like, I know all the foremen, I know all the guys that are on the job, because I frequently show up and I'm there and I'm present. And so it's not just when the owner is there, it's really being present and being connected to all those people. Because again, I think if you have that understanding of what they're going through on a day-to-day basis and what it's like to sell the product and what it's like to implement the product and whatever, I think that really gives you a unique perspective, and you can truly, like, I don't need to know everything about roofing. I just need to know enough to make me dangerous so that I can be effective for them, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great point. And this is honestly an approach that I haven't heard before, which is really, really cool. I like it a lot. And I think that it definitely has to be effective because I just really believe in personal approaches like so heavily. I think that agencies have maybe gotten away with that a little bit with, technology advancing and all that jazz. But I really do believe that it works because people, feel that you care. And I think that that's what a client wants most of all. I'm sure there's some that don't really care that much, but I definitely think that is the majority feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to ever get to the point where I'm so large that I'm not able to do that. That's why I keep my agency small and I pick and choose like the types of people that we want to work with. Like I said, not everybody is a good client.
Yeah.
I think when you accept that and you understand that, that leaves you room to keep focus on the ones that are really the right client for you. And then you can be more effective for those types of people.
Exactly. It's also having a level of respect for your business and who you want to work with. That's not just, a bad client for you might not be a bad client for another agency, but it's just, you're going to do your best work with the people that you think you work best with. And,
Correct.
they're obviously going to appreciate that too, the client, of course. Do you have a favorite job site that you've been on?
Shannon, I've been on so many different job sites.
Well, not to offend the roofers, but I'm sure the roofers aren't like the best ones, It's not that they're not lovely, not that the roofers aren't nice people. I'm saying maybe it might be boring to learn about roofing.
No, you know what? Like you said, like I'm on a constant journey of it's unbelievable how much I learn every day from, every person that I interact with. But
I love that.
it's so interesting. Like every single day like I said, today I'm working at a client and it's a co-working space. And, it's just so interesting, the people that you meet up here and all of the different things that I'm learning from other people that are here, working here and have offices here. So I don't really have like a favorite job site or a favorite story because all of them are fun and cool and different because they're all so eclectic, and, I have to say, like, actually getting in line and like working at Jersey Mike's was an interesting one.
Oh,
Oh, gosh. But you know what? I had so much appreciation for the franchise as a whole and even for the local franchise because, Jersey Mike's is really set apart by some of the, their cleanliness and the things they can and cannot do behind the counter and, versus like a Subway, for example. And you really see that difference, which again, I can market that much easier, right? You see the difference. Again, nothing against Subway, no problem against Subway. It's just that you really see the difference in how that franchisee is really managing their spaces and their their local franchisee, and the level of just the level of what they expect. And so, like I said, things like cleanliness and how they're delivering the food to the consumer and stuff like that. So it's very different than what you see if you stood in a line in Subway, as an example. So those are the kinds of things that I'm talking about. Like just you would never get that unless you were behind the counter working with the manager and working with the staff, the day-to-day hourly staff people. You'd never get that. So those types of experiences are invaluable to me. And like I said, I don't really have a favorite one, but that was definitely one that was fun and interesting and very different.
No, I can definitely understand that. I think I have such appreciation for deli counter people. Anyone who's making a sandwich for me, I don't understand how you can fit everything in that sandwich. I actually I think that it is a talent that I could never ever hone in on. And I think it's the coolest thing ever. I truly, I don't know why, but anytime I get a sandwich, I'm just in sheer awe of how many things can fit inside of the sandwich. And have you made a sandwich? Did you make one?
Well, yeah. So same thing. So I did, but again, they have very strict policies around like how the staff dress and how the staff touch food, and that's what's good. You wouldn't really know that unless you're working,
and that's a really good marketable thing. Is
right? That's a huge market. This is a huge reason why people can choose to go to a place like Jersey Mike's because the food, again, it's different from franchise to franchise. The idea is hopefully they're all following the same protocol. Now, if I went to another town and did it, maybe they're doing things a little bit differently. But the town that I was working in, they're following that franchise, code of ethics. And so that makes the consumer safe and feel good that when they go there, they're going to get a sandwich that is clean. It's clean, that they're not going to or whatever. So it's just examples like that. But I do love going on the job. I do love being with my clients. I do love being in person with them. I do love going on the road with them. And like I said, every day is a totally different day.
I think that's awesome. That's something that I really like about this podcast is I think a lot of people assume that I'm talking to the same kind of person, and maybe sometimes I'm talking to the same position of person, but everyone has a different way of doing things, and it's really interesting to learn from them. It teaches me so much about marketing that I could not find myself looking up. I think that everyone has different approaches to things that can all be successful, especially since it's a field that is so vast. But yeah, I think that's something that I wouldn't be able to go on the ground to do any work. So I think this is the closest thing that I can get to it. And I do really love it. So I can definitely understand why it would be something that's so helpful.
Yeah, it's true.
Do you use these experiences I know that storytelling is something that is very valuable in marketing. Do you use these experiences to kind of craft stories for different clients, or is that something that maybe?
No, for sure. I mean, storytelling and yeah, exactly. I mean, storytelling is everything in marketing, and absolutely weaving relevant experiences into content, into social media content, into email marketing, into, anything we're creating for them. Whether it's, again, websites, whatever. I mean, definitely. And that, again, that's the case for why being that connected to my client it makes it much easier for us to be able to do what we do for them and to also have a love of what we're doing for them and a joy of what we're doing for them because we're experiencing it. We're getting to know them in a deeper, meaningful way. And then it's much easier to be able to help them market their messaging out to the world or the consumers that they're trying to get it out to. It's much easier to do our job. So yeah, absolutely. I think those experiences do play into the storytelling of the client.
I really love that. I think that that firsthand experience is really great too because you have a better idea of what they actually do rather than them telling you. I think that that's it's more of a full picture of being able to create that story rather than they might leave things out that you think would be really important and marketable and important for the creative team to be able to
Mhm.
go with. And I think that that is invaluable. Like I think that there are so many things that, especially I've noticed with agencies, that founders leave out of their story that they think aren't relevant or important, and they really are. A lot of the time, there are so many things that they're not thinking of because they don't think it's marketable or they don't think that it matters. But I think that there's so many things that consumers care about that you might not be centered in to realize that that's something that would really be a selling point for what you're doing.
Right, for sure, for sure.
So that's
Yeah.
something that you can really get a good feel for.
It is, and again, I don't want to be like everybody else, nor do I want to be like any other agency. So I think we're very different, and I like it that way.
Well, speaking of that, how do you kind of imagine your agency in like 5 to 10 years? Like, do you want it to stay the same? Because you did say that you don't want to get big enough so that you can't do what you're doing now as being on the ground. But is there any like changes that you are excited for or would really like to see within the next many years?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously I want to grow, but grow at the right rate. And I don't want to ever get to the point where we're so large, like I said, that I'm disconnected from the stuff that makes me tick and the things that are really important to me, which is some of the stuff that I just talked to you about.
Mhm.
I don't want to ever be disconnected where the owner can't call me or talk to me and they're talking to my staff. It doesn't mean that, occasionally some of my staff have to talk to them directly, but the point is that I never want to get to the point where I'm disconnected from that and getting so busy that I can't do that. Um, and I probably need to put better boundaries in place for time.
I
Perhaps,
see that a lot.
but I guess I would rather be more accessible to them. And I think the reality of the situation is that they know that if they text or call me, they're always going to get somebody. Like they're going to get me. And I may not be able to talk to them at that moment in time, but I'm always messaging back saying, "Hey, I'm doing XYZ. I'll be able to contact you in a couple of minutes or 15 minutes or just so they know that I'm validating that they connected with me." But I think in terms of again, I've had my business for 7 years. So I think when you first start your business, like you're taking everybody, right? Like I gotta get business in, I gotta like whatever. And, I think I'm evolving year after year in terms of the way I'm growing my company and how I want my company to look. And for me, I think, what I see us going towards in the next, 5 years is really I love working in the health and wellness space. We have a lot of clients that are, therapists and dietitians and fitness instructors and very successful multi-level marketing folks. And I love that space because I myself, that stuff is important to me, fitness and health and all that. So I see myself and we're sort of migrating that way a little bit. Migrating more into that space doesn't mean that we're not going to be working with a bunch of other people. But I love that space and I see us moving into that direction a little bit more. But I still feel like I like to work with the small to medium sized businesses. Not a lot of agencies want to work with small business owners. I love working in the small business space. So I don't really see that changing too much. I'm careful about who I'm adding on for staff. I've had most of my staff with me since the beginning of time, since we started. So I'm very careful about that. Um, and like I said, being a little bit choosier, like getting very defined, which is also what we're teaching our clients to be very definitive about who it is that you're looking for. Because we spend so much wasted time going after all of these people that are really not our ideal customer. And if we become laser focused on what we are actually looking for, it's much easier to market them and ourselves for those types of people. And we can attract those types of people So that's kind of where for me, that's kind of what my vision is for where we're going.
I really like that. I mean, it's nice that you are excited to maybe be more involved in a field that you personally care about. Not that you don't care about all of these other industries that you're tapped into. Um, but I think that when people work in a field in which they're passionate about naturally, it's something that is a really good fit. It's exciting every day. I think that it really seems like you are just excited for new experiences too, which is really nice because that means, you know, I think that there's something really important to say about how you mentioned of, being more choosy because I think that I lost my train of thought. I think that a lot of people what they don't consider when being wary of that is that when you do choose a field that does not mean or that you want to pinpoint a field does not mean that you can't accept clients outside of that. That just means that you're focusing on the specific thing. There are still always going to be people that come up to you from another industry and ask you if you can do things for them and you don't have to say no. Like if you can say no if you think that it's really not a good fit, but I think that people don't consider that that will still happen regardless of if you are laser focused on something. Just because I mean, if you're doing good work and you have, reputability, there are still people that are going to come up to you just from hearing about you.
Right. And ever since I started my business, I've always wanted, so our business is a model again that probably most don't do where and I always tell this to clients, if especially prospects that are thinking about potentially working with me. And actually I've had people go to my website and say, I really want to work with you because of your connection to community and what you're doing for the community. So when people choose to work with us, a portion of their dollars always goes back into the local community and to nonprofits. And sometimes it's the nonprofits that we're always working with, or sometimes it's the nonprofit that the client comes to me and says, hey, I want to do this person. We want to help this person. And so that's another piece is that finding people that I want to work with that have that same community minded responsibility is also something that I'm working on in terms of, and I think intuitively those people sort of come to you, sort of like what you put out there is what you get back. And I think, word of mouth, especially for us, like we are, one of the things we work on and we teach clients is like, if you take care of your current customer base and you take care of them really well, and you know everything you could possibly know about them, and you're constantly staying in touch with them, even when you're not getting money from them, and that cultivation of that person, you don't have to spend as much money on marketing dollars because the person that you're taking care of, your current client, is always going to keep referring you to their spheres of influence. And so we spend a lot of time, like that's why I spend so much time in my relationships, because those relationships, and I'm doing it in an authentic way, not because I'm looking for something in return, but doing it in an authentic way. And those keep paying dividends time and time again. I mean, calls constantly from my clients that I've had for a long time, constantly referring me to their vendors, to their friends, to their this, to their that, whatever. And so I think for me, it's the authenticity and those connections and cultivation of the people that are in my network and my clients is really the most important thing for me.
I really value that, and I'm happy that you said it because one, I think this is where we have to end because we're a little over time, but that means it was a really fun conversation. So I appreciate you, but I also appreciate that you ended on that note. 'Cause that was
Absolutely.
something that people should really value, especially in the agency space. But I think always, and I hope that people, actually listen and take that into account. I think that would be absolutely lovely, and I hope we'll see that more.
Yes. Well, I appreciate being, on the show, and I appreciate spending some time with you. It's been great.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And then thank you everyone for watching or listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Just hear more stories and learn more things like I get to do every time I do this podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.